Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from a throwaway account who says 27 female accused of baby trapping my 28 male fiance when my tubes are tied. I had an argument with my fiance this morning. We've been dating for 2 years, engaged since September, and for the most part, everything has been going well. We've been planning a quiet backyard ceremony so that we can save up for a house instead. We've been communicative and managed to get through fights in the past. But this takes the cake. He's been evasive for the past 2 weeks about the wedding or any future plans we've made. And I basically had to corner him this morning before leaving for work to ask him what's going on. Turns out, while he was dog sitting for his uncle early in February, they had a chat that stuck with him. When they were talking about life and how things have been, his uncle admitted he resented his ex-wife for baby trapping him, and now he's divorced while his ex-wife is dating again. My fiance's cousin is an entitled asshat who terrorized him when they were both teenagers. Turns out it's been sitting in his mind. He says that he thinks I'm about to spring a pregnancy announcement on him and trap him in the marriage. This is despite the fact that he knows that I don't want kids. I basically raised my siblings and lost out on my childhood. I told him about not wanting kids when we first started dating. We were both on the same page, and I've asked him about getting a vasectomy in the past, which is why it's surprising that he thinks I'm trying to baby trap him. Thing is, the first chance I got, which still took a long time, I got my tubes tied. I literally can't get pregnant. I reminded him of this fact and that made him go really quiet. He didn't even apologize or say anything. So I told him that if he's going to be like this over a made-up issue in his head, I didn't know how much I could trust him in a real crisis. Now I'm wondering if I was too harsh and what steps we can take to move forward, or if I'm the right amount of angry and I should just end it. I have no idea what to do right now. And OP gave the update in the same post, so there might be a cross between some of the comments, etc. So we'll do the update first, then we'll cover a couple of the comments. So the update says it's been an exhausting week, both at home and work. Basically, we're not engaged anymore. He's moving back to his parents, and our relationship is over while he works on for himself. To answer some questions, no, he wasn't cheating, nor was there a secret baby on the side. Half a yes to him having second thoughts, half a yes to him being influenced by family and friends. I won't go too much into the details, just that his uncle's family were always awful to him. They were always the go-to babysitters, and he has trouble standing up to that generation of his family. He's impressionable, and he has trouble separating fact from fiction because of that, and them. Another factor is that one of his formerly child-free friends announced his wife's pregnant during New Year's, and he's been excited about it. My ex-fiancé is wondering if he changed his mind, especially since his parents do want to have grandchildren and have been asking if we're going to wait before having them. After dog sitting for his uncle, apparently all that combined in his mind that I changed my mind and I'd surprise him about it. Which is the core of the matter for me. Whether he forgot I had my tubes tied doesn't matter. He was projecting his fears, anxiety, and trauma onto me and punishing me for something that I didn't even do or say, and then made me out to be a deceptive partner because of that projection. He stopped trusting me because he was afraid of what the warped version he built up in his mind might do. That wasn't okay, and that's why I ended it. He's been moving his stuff out all week, and he told me he's going back into therapy. His parents will be there to help him, and they separately apologized to me. They have no idea how bad his anxiety is. I'll be there to support him as a friend, and I've been trying to say that it's on pause, but typing this out also makes me realize that no matter what, I wouldn't be able to win against those fears, nor can I trust him to ever fully trust me against them. Now, in the first part of the post, and I'm just going to have to quote a section of it again, it says that he thinks I'm about to spring a pregnancy announcement on him and trap him in the marriage. Yet, you're planning a wedding. I was like, what? And I have to say, calling off the engagement at this point sounds like the right thing to do. I don't think there is a way to move forward quickly with this at all. And separating yourself from the relationship, because, if I was told that by my partner that you was trying to trap them, that basically they don't trust you, how do you move forward with that? Without trust, there's just no relationship, but Radiant Nobody says his uncle sounds like a real winner. Misogyny at its finest. Why is he afraid of getting trapped into a marriage when he's literally planning a wedding with you? Like, the fuck? Marriage also isn't a trap. Anyone can leave at any time, regardless of whether there's kids, and the fact that he forgot your tubes were tied? Is he dumb? You sound the right amount of angry to me. Personally, I'd be hesitant to marry someone who was so easily swayed by his sexist uncle that you're somehow trying to trick him into a life of misery. On top of that, he's been dwelling on this for 2 weeks and never once communicated what's going on with him. He just completely checked out until you forced it out of him. I'm not sure I'd want to marry anyone who A, thinks marriage is a trap for men, and B, let his uncle convince him you're just like his ex-wife in one conversation. C, can't communicate or apologize. D, surrounds himself with such shitty male role models, and E, doesn't understand how tied tubes work. OP responds to that and says, I think this is exactly my problem. I don't know if he thinks I'd deliberately ruin my life to just mess his up, or I've been lying since I met him. I don't want to make a knee-jerk decision, but I'm seriously reconsidering this relationship. And then the update must have come after that where she did decide to break up. White Staunton says, so I told him that if he's going to be like this over a made-up, impossible issue in his head, I don't know how much I'd trust him in a real crisis. And says, are you sure this is what is really going on and not a on-the-moment deflection? Either way, I think it would be a good idea to postpone the wedding until you get to the bottom of this insanity. You are certainly sensible to consider how he would behave in an actual crisis. Accusing you of things that cannot happen is unhinged. Punishing you for things then that cannot happen and haven't happened is abusive. You are the right amount of angry. Only you can decide if this relationship is worth trying to save, but if someone came at me with this nonsense, I would not believe that was the real reason unless I had a reason to believe they were seriously mentally unwell. Your fiance is either lying to you or has completely lost touch with reality and needs to see a doctor. Professional Idiot says he hasn't apologized. Girl, run for the hills. This requires a serious conversation. If it's been weighing on him for weeks and he didn't even consider the fact that you literally can't get pregnant, there might be something else going on. This whole situation sounds fishy. OP says it does. I've been thinking maybe he forgot that I was sterilized because I didn't talk about it much. But I think I'd remember if my partner was shooting blanks. Cultural Shape says, is this the only time he's pulled something like this, or does he have a history of being easily influenced by people he maybe shouldn't be taking advice from, especially when that advice isn't even applicable to his situation? OP says he sometimes gets influenced by things he sees online. It's why we avoid using apps like Facebook, but he rarely takes advice from his family, especially the uncle, since they weren't that close before his divorce. And so ultimately it ended with that breakup. But what do you guys make of this situation? Put yourself in OP's shoes. Do you think you'd ever be able to move past something like that or not? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story does have an update as well from Trying Being Better, who says, my husband, male 28, tried to initiate sex. And I jokingly asked, female 26, how he planned on seducing me. This made him upset. What went wrong here? The situation is more or less in the title. My husband mentioned that he'd like to have sex, and I told him that I'd be ready around a certain time. That time came and he sauntered over where I was working to get things going. As he was hugging me, I giggled and asked how he planned on seducing me. Immediately, the mood changed. He sat up, and when I asked what's wrong, he said that it wasn't his responsibility to convince me to do anything. I tried to clarify and say that I was joking about foreplay, but he essentially said he couldn't make me do something I didn't want to do. He got up and left, and I was really confused. My husband mentioned in the past that he sometimes feels that I don't want to have sex and that it makes him feel like he's forcing me to be intimate even when I say yes. I have a lower sex drive than him, and I'm also on medication that lowers my libido. And so sex comes to mind way less frequently. I'm also in school full-time and work full-time, so my brain has been stretched thin. I've mentioned in the past that I enjoy sex and want to do it with him, but he said that it feels like I don't reciprocate the feeling. He even mentioned that he sometimes worries that he's coercing me to be intimate. He said that I seem to be enjoying myself in the act, but pretty neutral about sex just before. He's alluded to instances where he's had sex with women in the past and how they seem to be really enthused. When I asked if he ever wanted me to be like them, He said not necessarily, but confessed that he wished I had their enthusiasm. I'm exhausted. What went wrong? My JR Randy says, you said, how are you going to seduce me, hoping for a sexy little joke. He heard, how are you going to convince me? Because of what he expressed to you previously about feeling like he was forcing you, even though that's probably not what you meant/felt at all. I've been in his shoes, and it does get to the point where it just feels gross when you're the one initiating 100% of the time and starting to feel like your partner is doing it out of some perceived obligation versus actually desiring it as well. It's tough because of all the reasons you said, but you two need to find a way to understand you may not be thinking of it, but you do actually want to do it. My ex could never find that place with me, and it just became a dead bedroom because I just felt icky. Opie says thanks for your advice. You actually mentioned something we talked about in the past. My husband said that even though I say I want to have sex, he doesn't always feel like I do and doesn't want to coerce me. But it's tricky because I'm not super expressive in general. I have emotions, but I'm kind of flat. It runs in the family, which is something we've talked about navigating in the past. I thought we understood each other in the past, but in retrospect, I think we both happened to have the conversation today in a moment where we were both tired and stressed. My husband was bothered by some bad news earlier in the day. It must feel terrible to think your partner doesn't reciprocate, and I don't want him to think that. I think it's going to be an ongoing conversation before we find a perfect rhythm. So Opie did kindly update the post and says, after getting more responses than I expected, I wound up not only talking to my husband about intimacy, but about the post itself. My husband is also a Redditor, and I got so many different opinions that I wanted to hear some of his thoughts about them too, especially since it was not likely he'd somehow come across the post anyway. Our relationship is going well. We talked at length about sex, and it seems it was mostly a misunderstanding. My husband stressed that he didn't want me to have sex with him out of obligation. He felt like I was asking him to convince me to have sex instead of teasing about foreplay. I had the chance to ask him if he felt his needs were being met in the relationship, and we also talked about responsive desire and other things that surround sex. I asked him if I made him feel wanted and desired, and if he felt we're in a good place in our sex life. And he responded really positively. There are a lot of people who were concerned about our relationship, and there's a lot of context that can't really be captured in a single Reddit post. We spent most nights cuddling and watching random YouTube videos. We had sex twice since the first post, and I got some more lingerie to spice things up for both of us. Several of you mentioned getting some Come As You Are, and it turns out we already had that book. We just shelved it a long time ago. We've always been pretty touchy and flirty, but especially with school, work, and health stuff, I haven't been in the headspace that I want to be for the last few months or year. We obviously aren't perfect, but I'm thankful to be with someone who wants sex to be a fun experience for both of us. We tried the stoplight method a few times this week and like it so far. My husband loved the idea of putting a playlist together. He's very musical and loves having something playing when we're going at it, which means I'll need to work on my music tastes. If you have any song recommendations, please let me know. Oh no. Why did CBAT pop into my head immediately? Gets the people going. My husband also had a chance to see your comments. There were some things he agreed with, but others he didn't. I think we're both fascinated by how polarizing some of the responses were. There were some angry responses, but I think the post gave us an opportunity to just explore sex as a concept overall. We've had a lot of fun conversations about intimacy and Reddit culture, quite frankly. So yeah, we're okay. And for me, I'm not sure about you guys, but that felt like a pretty positive update overall that, this post got them to the point where they're having a discussion and moving forward in a more positive way. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below and chuck some CBAT on. And our next story does come with an update as well, and it's titled, Am I the Arsehole for refusing to respond to my sister? I, male 24, recently did a DNA test and ancestry test. I won't name the brand because I don't want this to seem like an ad. I was adopted by my parents when I was 7 years old. I don't really remember much, if anything, of my life prior to being adopted, but I know that I was neglected to say the least. Just to put that context out there. I've never really had intentions of meeting my biological family. I've always thought they obviously didn't care about me, so why should I waste my time caring for them? When I did the DNA test, I knew it was a chance that I would be matched with a close genetic relation, but I never had any intention of messaging with any of them, even though my parents have been supportive of me finding a connection to my bio family. Anyway, the DNA test came back a few days ago, and I matched with someone who apparently is my biological half-sister. She sent me a long message explaining that she's been searching me for a while and she would love to speak and help me build a picture of my biological family. She said that she lived with me and my dad, her stepdad and our mum when I was young. She was 7 years older than me. When I was removed into foster care, she moved in with her dad. I read the message, but I haven't responded. And in all honesty, I don't plan to. It's nice to know that someone's out there who cares for me, but I still don't want anything to do with my bio family. My brother, also adopted, Oliver, says that I'm being selfish by not responding. He says that I should think about what my sister might be thinking. But I don't think he understands since he's always kept the link to his bio family. We ended up getting into a huge, stupid argument over it. And he says if I wasn't going to respond, I shouldn't have even done the test because now it just gives my sister false hope. I told him he didn't understand what I was going through because he never lost connection with his bio fam. And he said I'm an idiot for thinking that. We were both probably equally rude. I'm not trying to paint him as a bad person. We had a dumb fight. So, am I the arsehole for refusing to respond to my sister? Now, you're not the arsehole for feeling the way that you are feeling in this situation. Absolutely not. And, your brother shouldn't be pushing you to do something that you don't want to do. However, and I can only say this from my point of view, I've never been in your position. I've never felt how you're feeling. So, I can only say it from what I think I might do in that situation and how I feel about this person who's searching for you. And maybe just letting them know that, you are alive and well and you're just processing things at the moment. You're not ready to go any further. Because from the very small amount of information we do have, it does sound like they care about you. But Express Chapter says, no one's an arsehole here, but I don't know why I'd make your info publicly available if you weren't planning to respond to anyone. Opie says, pretty sure the one I used said I couldn't see my matches unless I was public. I guess I was curious as to see if I had any matches that were close. My other sibling did one and the closest he had was a third cousin, so in all honesty it was a mixture of I was curious and not expecting anyone to be closely related to me. Classic Ad says, no one's an arsehole here, however you don't remember much of a previous life. She does. There's a whole world that may open up for you. At a minimum, she may have also went through trauma. She may have loved and cared for a baby sister to the extent a young elementary age child could. Then you were taken from her. She may have loved you very much. You're not letting her know you is sad. Opie says, I'm a guy by the way, but yeah, I get what you mean. Thank you for your comment. Consistent Clue says, I agree, not the arsehole, and you don't have to respond. From my understanding, you're a bit indifferent or unbothered by the news. If you think you can manage your emotions, no problem, then acknowledging the message, explaining your stance and wishing her well could provide her a lot of peace with minimal effort on your part. If it is emotional to reply, sending a message to provide her some closure would be a kind and selfless act. She might not have found a good family like you did. Opie says, well, I never knew I had any biological siblings. In fact, I thought I didn't. In some ways, I don't want to have any ties to my biological family because they gave me up. I had a mother who didn't/wouldn't protect me from my father. I ended up in a loving family with parents who care for me and siblings who I know and care for. In some ways, I want to entirely leave any ties to my biological family behind. I don't feel any ties to them, and I don't think I want to. I get that it could be difficult for her, but I don't know. Messaging feels like I'm reinforcing a connection that I don't even want to exist. But there was many of the same kind of responses. Some people telling, the sister wasn't the one who abandoned you kind of thing. Didn't really have much of a choice back then. Opie came in with her update and said, thank you all for sharing your points of view. I read almost all of the comments and appreciate all the advice and kind words most people sent out. I decided in the end to take the advice of most of you and send a message to my sister which said, hello, her name. Thank you for reaching out and I appreciate you sharing that you've been searching for me. As you know, I was taken into foster care at age 5, which I don't remember much of. I was adopted by my mum and dad when I was 7 years old into a loving family. I've been cared for greatly by them and love them with all my heart. I've been to this university and I've graduated with a first-class honours degree in education and I'm currently working as a teacher. Although I appreciate you reaching out, I am not currently looking for any connection to my biological relatives at this time. I just wanted to send this message to let you know I am well and I've had a happy life being part of my new family. Best wishes, OP. I think that message is alright and makes it clear I'm not looking for any connection. She has read the message but not responded, although I don't expect her to. Thank you all again for your advice and help with dealing with this stressful situation. In the comments on this one, Stella says, I'm so glad that you decided to message her this once. Your message made it clear that you're not looking for a connection but gave her the reassurance that you're living a good life. The best of both worlds. OP says, yeah, she literally just sent me a really nice message back, so I'm glad that I provided closure for her. Even though finding out I have a bio sister has been stressful and something I never expected, in some ways it's been nice finding out. Someone asked, would you mind sharing the message? OP says I don't mind, but I'm going to rewrite it and take out some personal information, but the gist of it is exact same. Hope that's okay. He said, hello, OP. It's so great to hear from you and I'm so pleased to hear how well you've gotten on. I completely understand and respect your decision about contacting biological family. I also went to this university, but I imagine a few years before you did. It makes me so happy to know that you found an amazing family who was able to love you in the way that you deserve to be loved. I just wish I was able to be a part of that life also. I got married last year and have a 2-year-old son named this name. I hope one day you will feel open to meeting him. Although he's young, I've told him about you and how we used to play Peanut Butter Dog. You even remember that. Sending all my love. I have no clue what Peanut Butter Dog is or what that means, so don't ask me. And, I think that's lovely. And what OP did was lovely. That they reached out to give them that closure. It sounds like, sister is reaching out to try and make more of a connection, but not forcing it at the same time. And, a part of me really hopes that they do make that connection one day, as long as there's nothing dodgy going on in the background, which, I don't know if there is, there isn't, whatever. One too many Reddit stories read from me. And I wasn't going to criticize OP in any decision that they made in the end. That's an incredibly difficult situation to navigate, and I think they did it the best way that they could. So fair play to them, and I really do wish you all the best moving forward. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so bloody very much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. And Poppy says much love too. Bye bye.